What's up, YouTube? We're going to be going live in the next minute or two. Well, we are live, but we're going to be talking to you on our show in the next minute or two. We're just waiting for our notifications to go out. So don't go anywhere. You do not want to miss this one. We are going to give you some knowledge bombs on how to nail that pull-up. So you want to know how to master the pull-up, or even more importantly, how to put together a complete pull-up workout. Well, in today's show, we are going to reveal those secrets. We're going to teach you how to put together a well-balanced program that not only is going to master the pull-up for you, but create a very well-balanced upper body physique. Now, make sure you stick around to the end, because we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes people make, and we're going to answer the question that a lot of people have been asking, which is, how much do I need to train in order to maintain the strength that I've worked hard for? Make sure you stick around for that one. All that and more coming up.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name is Rad Burmeister. I am the co-founder and co-creator of Unity Gym and the UMS, the Unify Movement System, where we take driven people and turn them into superhumans. The way we get such astonishing results with our members is that we've created a program that has a balance between strength and flexibility. If you want to know how we do that, you can get started by downloading our free flexibility blueprint. There's a link in the description of this video. Now, as always, I have the legendary Phil White, our resident physiotherapist, with us, an all-round good-looking guy. How are you, Phil?
Very well today, thank you. Yep, had a so smoky outside in Sydney, cycled in, felt like
Just
I was...
got to give up the durries, mate. Stop smoking while you're cycling.
Mate, it is.
One of my friends had one of the best profile photos from years ago. It was a cyclist in all the gear and everything with a durry in his mouth.
There's the old European cycling tourists. Yeah, mate, different times.
So funny. Yeah, it's pretty full on out there, isn't it?
Yeah, so hopefully, our koalas are all right out in New South Wales at the moment, all these horrible bushfires. Yeah,
if you're watching from around the world, Australia is absolutely on fire. It's burning. It's pretty bad. And where I am from, the Central Coast, when I got up this morning, they'd been doing some back burning, and you honestly, this is not figuratively speaking, you couldn't see 500 meters. The smoke was so thick that when I was walking to the train station 500 meters away from me, I couldn't see. It was really crazy. So anyway, put your thoughts and prayers out to the wildlife of Australia.
That's it. But I'm excited. We're finally getting to the culmination of a big week, which has ended up being kind of stretched over a week and a half with a bit of interruptions last week with having Kyle on the show, which is very exciting. But good
interruptions, Yeah, exactly. But this is going to be a really, really good show. If you are watching and you want to learn how to do a pull-up, this show is going to be life-changing for you, because putting together a proper program for pull-ups is a lot harder than what a lot of people think. And we're going to show you how to put together a full workout for developing pull-ups. It's going to be very, very valuable to you.
So if you've in the past used certain programs that, like, I don't know, gone online and done like people love like the 100 burpees a day, or like 100 pull-ups. I don't know, if people would do 100 pull-ups a day, you'd probably die. But just let us know if you've tried anything out and if you've had any success there, because we'll be going into our thoughts. And
yeah, for sure. And as always, if you're watching, please hit that like button and comment with your name and where you're watching from, so we can give you a shout out.
Yeah, and just get like the episodes where people ask lots of questions, like they're getting a lot of good free information. So if you can,
if you want to ask some questions now, you're going to get some great info. We're going to get out on the dance floor. We're going to get out on the dance floor now.
Here we go.
We are going to get out on the dance floor, and we are going to show you this workout. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you the key insight from today's show. The key insight from today's show is that most people don't understand how to put together a proper pull-up workout that creates balance in the upper body. And the balance that they're missing is the balance between vertical pushing and vertical pulling. This is something that's very important to understand, and if you get it right, you're going to develop a very well-balanced upper body physique and also a very strong pull-up and vertical push pattern as well. So let's get out on the gym floor. Let's get into this. Phil's got the mic today.
I got the mic, so we'll be getting out there, and on the way out, say hi to Kyle. He's, can't get rid of him. He's still here.
So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about basically how to use primary exercises and supplementary exercises. So the primary exercise is always the exercise that is the highest on the hierarchy of needs. So it's the exercise that requires, that is what your number one goal to achieve is. Now, when you're doing a workout that involves pull-ups, it doesn't matter what else is in that workout, always put pull-ups as the A1 or A2 exercise. The reason why is because pull-ups require so much strength to do. If you put them anywhere but first place, you're going to have a diminished level of strength, and you're not going to be doing good quality pull-ups. And if you're not doing good quality pull-ups, you're not going to get better at doing good pull-ups. You need to put them right at the top of your hierarchy of needs. So it doesn't matter what other movements are going in that bent arm strength workout. If pull-ups are in there, they should be either A1 or A2. The second consideration is the pull-ups are considered a vertical pull pattern, which means they should always be paired with a vertical push pattern. So you don't want to just be doing pull-ups without doing vertical push. You need to be balancing those two movement patterns.
Yeah, as I've talked about so often, we've done a few shoulder series now, and it's such a fascinating joint where it is all just, the muscles around the joint. There's only the one bony collarbone holding things in place, so it's so important to have that muscular control. And that's why if you're only doing kind of one half of the movements, and you're going to be having shoulders that aren't going to be too happy. So make sure you get those push in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next thing to think about is the amount of sets and reps that's required to achieve a result. So there's two main ways to think about training and how you should cycle your periodization and your programming. The first one is called accumulation training, and accumulation means accumulating fatigue in the muscle body that will create hypertrophy. So enough accumulation of fatigue that's going to cause micro tears in the muscle, which will then cause the body to grow, to hypertrophy the muscle fibers. Okay?
Yeah. Let's get stuck into some movements, and we can talk about this when we're back under the mic.
Sure. So the first one we're going to do is just a supinated grip pull-up. So from here, you're just going to be doing either from what we've been doing inside, which is either earlier this week, which is either a jumping pull-up or an eccentric pull-up or a full pull-up. Okay, so that's going to be your first movement. The second movement that you'll do will be a shoulder press. So you can either do dumbbells or barbells. So you're just going to have a barbell like this or dumbbells, and you're going to do a shoulder press. So you're doing a vertical push and pull. So A1 and A2 means that you're going to do one set of A1, then you'll rest for a certain period of time, usually about 1 to 3 minutes, I should say. Then you'll do A2, and then you'll repeat back and forth. Okay?
Yeah, so you can imagine if you've gone and done some bicep curls because you want to work on your pulling strength, and you've done that first. If you've gone and done a whole set of that and you try and pull yourself up, you're going to have a real hard time. So that piece of information there is just so key. You want to be as fresh as you can. Same thing goes for a warm-up. If you go and smash yourself and do a really hard cardio session to warm up, so often people will come in, they're already kind of neurologically drained. They're trying to, huff and puff while they're doing these big strength movements. So I think it's so important to, be as fresh as you can when you're doing these really challenging new movements.
Mm-hmm. The second two exercises are the scap pull-in.
So just like we did earlier in the week, last week, so this is the scap pull-in. So what he's trying to do there is really use the muscles to pull his shoulders back and down, going from relaxed here to nice and soft up here, but active through there. You can see the front, his chest is pulling up towards where the bar would be.
Just depressing the scapula like that, holding for 3 seconds on each rep. The third exercise we're going to do in this workout is called a trap 3 raise. Okay, and this is again just to create some more strength through the scapular stabilizers. So from here, I'm going to grab myself a dumbbell, and I'm going to get my spine at about a 45-degree angle, and then from here, I'm going to retract the scapula, raise up, hold for 3 seconds. Back down
so this
slowly,
one can be quite a confusing exercise for some people. So remember with that contraction, that first one where you're getting your shoulder blade back, just think about what it felt like to do that when you're hanging on the bar, because it's that same feeling you want to achieve here. Then as you're lifting your arm up, you still have that intention and that tension through here, but you're allowing your arm to then move up into that position. And so you can see here he's in a neutral grip here, so it's a bit different to the supinated grip we did with the pulling. So the neutral being the dumbbell is straight up and down like that. not to the side. So,
Yep.
Yep. Next.
Cool. Next is going to be bicep curls and tricep extensions. So we can go on a 45-degree angle, like this, bicep curls.
And you can see in this position where he's in that 45-degree angle, a nice reason to do it there is because your bicep is stretched over that two joints, so you're going through that real full range.
And mainly because when you do your bicep work in a pull-up, you don't go to that range, you only go to there. So by bringing the arms back here, we're working the bicep in a deeper range than what's happening when you're doing your pull-up. So make sure that the humerus, the upper arm, stays vertical, and you just curl with the bicep so it's just the forearm that's moving, okay? And then the last one we'll do, just to create balance from the bicep curl, is a tricep extension. You've always got to train antagonist muscles, so now from here, tricep extension. So all I'm doing here is keeping the upper arm vertical, locking out, down slowly until the weight touches my shoulder, lock back out.
Yep, nice and simple. So you can see how if you follow that whole program, so obviously when you're doing it, it's not going to be like you don't go the first two exercises and the next one and these ones and then back to pull-ups again. What we're doing is doing a full pull-up workout, all of your pull-up session, and then onto your scapular tractions, then onto your the scapular tractions with the trap 3 raise, and then bicep and tricep. So
yeah, what's really important to understand, as I said before, is the idea of the hierarchy of needs and how many sets and reps you do. So what you need to do when you're doing accumulation training to grow volume in the muscle, you need to do a total of 40 repetitions minimum. It's between about 40 and 70 reps in order to achieve the desired result. So there's different ways to go about that, but the most common way would be to do 4 sets of 10 or 5 sets of 10, or 5 to 6 sets of 8, depending on how strong you are. And if you can't do 8 reps of a pull-up, so if you're somebody that's watching this to learn how to do pull-ups, you need to do eccentric loading. And the way that eccentric loading works is 3 seconds of eccentric loading equals 1 rep. So if you can do a full 10-second eccentric rep, then that will equal 3 reps of concentric loading. So if you can do 5 reps of that, then in that one set you're considered to have done 15 reps. So if you did 3 sets of that, that would equal 45 repetitions, and that would give you an accumulation result. So 3 or 4 sets of that would be very, very good, okay? Then the other way to go about this is that you do intensification training, which is where the goal is more to train the central nervous system. And when you do that, you do less reps, but a higher intensity, and you only need to do about 25 total reps for that. So a really common way of doing that would be 5 sets of 5 reps. That's a really common strength training protocol.
And just to make it quite clear about what intensity is in this case, so intensity doesn't mean like, you're, fired up and you're yelling out while you do it. What it means is you're making the exercise harder. So in like a dumbbell, it's quite easy because you can just go up in weight, and that's a higher intensity. But for a pull-up, it can be a bit tricky because it's about how much you can just pull yourself up. So if at the moment you're able to do quite a few sort of jumping eccentric reps, then if you wanted to go to a higher intensity, it might mean that you try and do some full concentric reps. Yep. But you instead of doing the accumulation of like 15 of the eccentric one, so if you're doing the 10 seconds for 5, instead you're doing 4 to 5 actual concentric reps, and that's a higher intensity.
That's a higher intensity.
That's just to be quite clear about what intensity means.
That is really important to understand, because I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to put together their own program is they don't understand how to choose an exercise that is either considered a higher intensity, which makes it intensification training, or a lower intensity, which makes it accumulation training. And all they do is just bang away at trying to do the same thing, barely getting 2 or 3 good reps. And it's not even really considered an intensity, it's considered too intense, and they're not getting any reps done at good technique. So that's really important. So there's your A1 and A2. That's called the primary lifts, your shoulder press and the pull-ups. Then we move on to the supplementary, which is called the B1 and B2. So that's the scap pull-in and the trap 3 raise. For these ones, there's different ways to do it. I would recommend, in the case of trying to get your pull-up, I would recommend doing 5 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions of each one. Again, because what you want at this stage when you're trying to learn a movement like this is you want a really high amount of volume. So you don't want to be doing a weight with the trap 3 raise where you can barely do 5 or 6 reps for 3 sets. You want to be doing something that you can really control for 8 to 10 reps for a lot of sets, for 4 or 5 sets, so that you're getting a lot of volume and training the body, training that movement pattern, laying down the pathway, the nervous system, the connection to be able to fire those muscles and do the right job, which is really, really important at the early stages of learning a pull-up. The biceps and triceps, not so much. The biceps and triceps you can get away with doing maybe 3 sets because it's just a supplementary move and you can really lift some heavier weights and just really go for it. The biceps respond quite well to high intensity, which means they're predominantly fast twitch muscle fiber, and you can get a really good result with biceps for a beginner from doing like 6 to 8 reps, and for an even more advanced person you can even get a good result from only doing 4 to 6 reps, and the triceps maybe add 2 more reps to both of them.
So I think like this is an example program that we've given you here, and there's so many different ways you can do it. And so if you look back to the episode we did first in the pull-up series, we talked about finding your weak points. So in this example, we're doing biceps and triceps as our supplementary phase because it's so common that people really struggle with the pulling factor. But if you're coming from like a bodybuilding background or something like that, where you've done loads and loads and loads of grip stuff before, but maybe you haven't, I guess bodybuilders often have grip strength, but if grip strength is your real weak point, then you might spend the supplementary time doing more grip strength. Or if you're really struggling with the lat side of things rather than the biceps, and you need that elbow extension is the thing that's really challenging you there, then you can change it to a more of a lat specific exercise. So you can see how with the perfect program is the perfect program for your specific weaknesses and strengths. So
very good point.
Yes,
you go. No. The way that you would do that is, as Phil said, you have to use those tests that we did earlier in the week, figure out which of the areas that are the weakest on your body, and you'll always do a pull-up variation first if you're trying to get pull-ups, because that's the hierarchy of knees. That's the most important exercise, paired with a vertical push movement. But then the B1 and 2 and the C1 and C2, they're going to be dependent on what your weakness is. But you figure out your weakness, and then you also have to do the antagonist movement or muscle group. So even though triceps have nothing to do with the pull-up, you train them as well just to create symmetry in the elbow and shoulder.
They have a bit, because with the tricep you are actually, with shoulder extension, your tricep crosses the shoulder joint as an extensor, so it's something to do with it, but certainly less. You can't do have massive triceps and then suddenly be able to do pull-ups. So.
for sure.
But we'll be definitely handy for when we move on to doing muscle-ups in next week. You got to have that.
We're doing that this week. We're doing that tomorrow, Thursday and Friday.
Sorry, on our sheet.
So you're going to see some of Yanni out here, because I'm not going to be doing a muscle-up just because it's not the right thing for me to be doing at my stage of training with what I'm doing with my shoulder.
So while we're here as well, like the other thing we're going to talk about was the different types of grip that to do with the pull-up.
Absolutely.
And so when you're thinking about programming long-term, today we're doing a supinated one, which again is making it much more bicep specific. But depending on kind of what setup you have at home, if you have a bar or the gym, like if you just have a bar, then it's pretty hard to do anything but pronated or supinated. But ideally, you can have a setup where you have parallel bars as well, and you can go into that neutral grip, because changing up that grip with your programming, so if you do a block of just supinated, then move on to a block of pronated, neutral, and then a block of pronated will give you a really good all-round strengthening, because you'll be targeting different muscles.
And the way we do things in the UMS is we actually have in our 6-week mesocycle, we have microcycles, and microcycles are 1 week. And from microcycle to microcycle, we'll have different goals.
Do you want to explain a mesocycle just quickly?
So a mesocycle is a length of programming that is made up of a chunk of microcycles. And a microcycle is usually 1 week, and a mesocycle can be anywhere from 4 to 12 microcycles. Most strength coaches will program a mesocycle to be somewhere between 4 and 8 microcycles. So it's a length of time where you have a goal to achieve, and then you create new mesocycles. And mesocycles fit into what's called a macrocycle. And a mesocycle is made up of microcycles, which are 1 week long, and a macrocycle is made up of mesocycles, which in our case in the UMS we do 6 week long mesocycles. So the way you want to think of when you program for this at the most basic level is think of a mesocycle. Think of 4 to 8 weeks, let's call it 6 weeks, do what we do. Create a 6 week goal for yourself with a deload week in the 6th week where you reduce your volume by 60%, so you only lift 40% of the total volume. Total volume means the total amount of reps performed. So that would mean if I said do 40 reps in one workout, then in that deload week you'd only do 16 or something like that, give or take. And then you'll change what your goal is for the next mesocycle. So at the most basic level of a program like this, do one mesocycle where you do a supinated grip pull-up and one mesocycle where you do a pronated grip pull-up. That's changing the variable of exercise selection. There's many other variables that you can change, like tempo, amount of reps performed, amount of weight lifted, amount of rest between sets, all these things. Yeah. But that's a really basic way.
And remember your goals with it as well. What are you trying to achieve long term? Do you want to go down to Bondi bars and be able to, do as many like pull-ups as you can in one go, or are you maybe working towards a muscle up? Because if you're working up towards a muscle up, then what's really important is getting the power and the speed. And so you might be doing lower reps with a higher intensity. So you might even, if you're at the point where you can do perfect reps, adding extra weight to make your actual contraction more powerful to get up into that muscle up. But muscle ups, again, we're going into from tomorrow. So just think about your goals when you're doing this. And whenever you're doing your programming, you always have to think, like, what is my goal for this long term, and what have I got to do in this next 6 weeks to go towards that?
Sean has asked, Fiorentini, 2 things. For strength, pull-ups or bent over barbell rows, over or underhand grip on pull-ups. Unity is the best, love your content. So overhand grip we call pronated grip and underhand we call supinated grip. The answer is that there is no best. The best thing is, thing is to periodize, which means you shouldn't do the same thing for more than 6 weeks. You should change what you do.
We're doing here, like a pull-up is a vertical push-pull, and in Unity we do that on one day, and then you have a rest day for your upper body, and then the next time you're going in doing your horizontal push-pull. So in this bent over barbell row, that's a horizontal push-pull. So again,
it's
such
a
an important
movement,
but it's a totally different part of the cycle. So with that balance of the shoulder that we've been talking about, getting your vertical push-pull in is so important, but also getting your horizontal push-pull is so important. So bent over row, probably partnered up with the bench press, is a really nice way of giving
giving you horizontal push-pull. Yeah, and there's different ways to go about that, Sean. You can either do vertical push-pull one day, horizontal push-pull the other day, or you can do both of them on the same day. And that really, in my opinion, that depends on how much time you have. For the people at our gym, at Unity Gym, we do vertical push-pull and horizontal push-pull on different days because it's too hard to get them all into a 1 hour workout. Whereas with our online UMS program, we program both of them in both days because those people have more time. They're not limited to a 1 hour workout. That's how we do it.
And so in terms of over or underhand, so pronated or supinated grip or neutral grip, the answer is we want to be changing that as the cycles go on. So for some people, it's often, especially if they've done bicep training before, it's a bit easier for them to get the underhand one. So if that's the case, maybe you should be working on your weakness a bit more. So maybe start with a neutral grip and change to pronated. Again, pronated makes it a bit more of the lats rather than the bicep. If you're supinated, it makes it more bicep than lats, and neutral grip, you're getting the elbow flexors, so your brachialis and your brachioradialis, plus a sort of a mix between your bicep and your lats. So there's just, ideally, you're doing all of them, but over the different cycles. So.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made with my training is thinking that I could change my body by compartmentalizing it and thinking, I want bigger lats, so all I'm going to do is pronated grip pull-ups. And what I honestly believe is that you can identify a weakness in your body and you can prioritize it by putting more of it in there than other things, but you can't only do that one thing and neglect everything else. You still have to say, okay, well, I've done pronated pull-ups for 6 weeks now, twice a week. Now what I'm going to do for the next 6 weeks is pronated pull-ups one day of the week and supinated grip the other day. Or for this cycle, I'm going to do neutral grip one day and supinated grip the next day. And then in the next cycle, I'll do pronated grip again 2 days a week. You have to mix in the different grips and the different ways of training.
Yeah, and for those who, we're talking generally people who don't have any injuries at the moment, but for those who maybe have, whenever they do pull-ups, you find that your shoulders get a bit sore, give the neutral grip a go, because it's often the most friendly on the shoulders. And you're if you have, pronated is really quite challenging for some people. So bring into that neutral grip, find the parallel bars and do it that way and see how your shoulder feels. 'Cause that's often a nice way to start for people who have had a bit of a grumbly shoulder before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Kevin Lee has said, morning guys, legs positioning when doing pull-ups, bent or straight, does it matter? It doesn't matter. It's an upper body exercise and different people do it different ways. Personally, I like to have straight legs. It looks nicer and it's a bit more, it ensures a very strict pull-up. But that said, all I would say is make sure that you're not using your legs to kip. Kipping is really, really bad. The only time I would ever say that you could kip is on the absolute last rep. And the only reason why I would even say that that is allowed is because if it allows you to get up to the bar, so you can then control a longer range of motion for an eccentric contraction on that last rep, then do it. But I would never use.
For those who don't know what kipping is if you ever watch any CrossFit and they do the swinging thing where they use the momentum to get up to the pull-ups, like, you know, that's a CrossFit move and they train specifically for that. So if they want to do it, 100% do it. But yeah, for general strength training, it's a better idea to try and get the muscles to get you up there.
For strength and conditioning, kipping is an absolute no-go. For CrossFit, it's totally fine, and we're not going to comment on that. But if you want to do strength and conditioning, the idea of strength and conditioning is to make the muscles and a specific movement as strong as possible. So any kind of kipping, which is where you flick your body to assist with the movement, it's taking away from the raw strength that you're trying to develop, and you should be doing different things to get stronger. Yeah. So hope that answers your question there, Sean. Tommy's saying, so in any given pull-up session, should you do one set of pronated, one set of supinated, and one set of neutral, then repeat? I would never do that. I've never done it myself personally. I don't know what Phil thinks about that, but I think a much better way to program, and everybody that knows more than me that's ever taught me about programming, is that you choose a goal for a mesocycle and you work that goal for the mesocycle.
And the reasoning why I'd agree with that is because with any sort of muscle group that you're trying to strengthen up, you need a certain amount of volume in that area to get a change. So if you're changing between it, then as we said before, if you've gone from a supinated to now a pronated, you've really suddenly taken the bicep quite out of that movement, and for the next set you're using more of your lats. So you're just not getting that cumulative effect, which is what gets the change over time. So that would be
Kevin Lee's about foot position.
Yeah, we just did.
Yeah, we just did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. It is about volume, and it's about the amount of volume that it requires to actually achieve change. It's quite amazing. It's one of the things that I've been really doubling down on, which I've known about for decades, but since I did this injury in my shoulder, I had to reevaluate what I'm doing and think about how I can get better. And one of the biggest things that I manipulated was just to make sure that I got the right amount of volume on each exercise, which means there's certain exercises where you're doing, I've been doing 5 sets of trap 3 raises when I do it each week. 5 sets. That's a lot of a remedial exercise that a lot of people wouldn't put the time into doing, but the results that I've had are phenomenal. You don't want to be changing from set to set of the variation of an exercise. That's really for people that are trying to, not really understand how strength development works, I would say. Yep. What's Kevin Lee saying here? Thanks, good to know. Currently doing sets combined of supinated and eccentrics, doing everything with the barbell and doing the supinated with bent legs rather than loading the barbell on and off in order to reach the bar, pull-up bar. Kevin, that's awesome. I'm actually really happy that you said this, because this is something that I said that I was going to talk about today that I completely forgot about. What you're describing there is something called a hybrid set, and a hybrid set is where you... In calisthenics, it's when you can't see. With weightlifting, it's really simple. You just reduce the amount of weight so that you can do the exercise. But with calisthenics, you're doing a body weight exercise, so you can either do it or you can't. So if you want to try and do, say, for example, pull-up, perfect example. You want to do a pull-up and you can do 2 reps, but in your programming, you're meant to be doing 8 reps. So what do? You've been doing eccentric reps for 6 months, but you still can't do more than 2 reps of a pull-up. Well, you do hybrid sets, where what you'll do is you'll do your 2 pull-ups, then you'll rest 10 to 20 seconds maximum, and then you'll go straight into doing eccentric reps, and that becomes a hybrid set. So you're still getting volume on the movement that you're trying to get stronger at, but then you're also making up the total volume on the muscle group by doing the hybrid set of doing an easier progression, in this case an eccentric rep.
Love it.
So that's a really good point.
Yep.
And
you'll have to bend your legs if you're doing the barbell because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna be
absolutely.
low to the ground, so that's not a big problem.
You know, my favorite way of doing hybrid sets, and this is how I train most students at Unity Gym, is that they do their pull-ups on a bar that they have to jump to, but they have a barbell set up at about sort of the upper part of their neck height, and they drop down, shake their arms, and then you go to that barbell, lift up on your toes, lift your knees up in front of you, and then do your eccentric rep. Because when you've got that set up, you can take a 0-second pause very easily without having to swing around. You can't actually take a 0-second pause on an eccentric pull-up if you've got to jump up to the bar each time. It will never be 0 seconds. At best, it might be 1 or 2 second break between reps. But when you do that, by the time your arms are straight, you just touch your feet to the ground, immediately go back up, and then lift your legs again. So that's actually my favorite way of doing it. Guys, we're out of time. Is there anything, Yanni, that you want me to read out from the comments from the last 24 hours that you noticed? Because I haven't read through these yet. Sorry if for those of you that don't get to watch the show live, if you had any questions here, please type them again and I'll make sure that we answer them in tomorrow's show. We've just run out of time.
A few new people, just quickly, can you switch me on?
Yeah. Yeah,
Just going to give a quick shout out to
Yanni.
Thomas, George and Julia Beale. They're both new to the channel and have commented for the very first time. Welcome to the tribe. Cohen Parker, we answered your question today. Did you talk about how long it takes to work on maintaining strength? I'm pretty sure you did.
No,
we
didn't.
Oh
Last
my
one.
God.
Let's do it really quickly, or should we do it tomorrow?
I mean, it's a big topic, but
It's a big topic.
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow.
We'll do it tomorrow.
We'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, tomorrow we're going to go through, we're going to break through what the elements of a muscle up are, so just the basic things. And this presumes that you can do 5 pull-ups, okay? 5 proper or do we say 8 pull-ups, Yanni?
8.
8 pull-ups,
8.
okay? So before you even start muscle up training, you need to be able to do 8 pull-ups. If you can,
And there's a very big reason for that, and we're going to go into that tomorrow, but it's really important that you guys, that we remember to discuss, oh, I'm on camera. Ooh. It's important that we remember to discuss the concept of greasing the groove and preparing the tissues and remodeling the tissues. So, when we say you've got to be able to do 8 pull-ups, we say that because we know that in order for you to achieve that goal, you will have had to have banked a lot of reps. And during banking those reps, that means that your body will be properly prepared for the transition into a muscle up. Because if you try this without banking those reps, as Phil pointed out a few shows ago, there's it's a much slower process for your connective tissues, for the passive structures, and especially the bones to remodel. And you're going to be putting in an excessive amount of force and load on areas of the body like the bone structures in your wrists to do strict muscle ups. So it's super important that you understand this. Anyway, we'll go more deep tomorrow.
Yeah, cool, guys. Sorry, I just realised I put my microphone away when we hadn't finished yet. Yes, it's going to be a big show tomorrow. Not only will we deconstruct the muscle up, but we will also talk about how much work do you need to do in order to maintain strength, not build it, but maintain what you've already got. Stay tuned, or rather tune in tomorrow, and we will see you then. Have a great day training today.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.